Okay, we're recording now.
Sick. All right.
Okay, you ready to give this another shot?
Yeah, let's do it. This should work this time.
All right, perfect. All right, on three, two, one. Hey guys, Jeremy with Rocket City Wyco here, back with another deck profile. This is a list that we have from the Orlando Regional with over 400 players. Man, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us about your deck.
This is Nick Tygielski. I placed 17th, going 7-2 at the Kissimmee Regional. Been playing ABC Therion, and I put in a new AFD, which was absolutely crazy. Did phenomenal this this regional. I wouldn't be surprised if it got banned again.
That's crazy, man. Immediately taking advantage of the new stuff, but that's great, man. Go ahead and just tell us about your deck.
In terms of pieces, ran 2A, 3B, 2C. This is pretty standard, but you can, if you had to change this, I would probably even add maybe a third A if you really wanted to change things up. 2-2-2 kind of seems a little thin, especially since I'm playing triple unauthorized. But I guess just going at the top here, just Dueling Book does its thing. But 3 Ash Blossom, Brandon matchup primarily. I think Ash is pretty strong this format. Ashing the runic field spell feels pretty good. It does stop you for one turn, but that could, especially with this deck, it's enough to kill him after that. Let's see, the one Destrudo, that's for the AFD package. At first, I was playing 2 Destrudo because I was kind of spooked or getting scared at Kashtira milling or runic banishing, basically this being banished, but that never really happened. So I guess I got kind of lucky with that. 2 Therion King Regulus. I think this is a pretty standard 2 of. 3 will be too clunky. 1 Union Driver. That's also pretty standard. 2 would be way too clunky. It's your primary combo piece. If this gets stopped, if you don't have an extender, you kind of lose. So this is a pretty much necessary for modern day AFD or ABC. 1 Call by the Grave. That was at 39 cards, and I was like, I'll throw in a Call by the Grave because why not? Actually, it did come up at a game 3 against a branded Gimmick Puppet where I did Call by the Grave as Gimmick Puppet, and that felt great. I still lost that round, but Sacky one-ofs can do it.
Oh my gosh.
But I still lost. But this hits hand traps. Ash against this deck is pretty strong if they time it right. So hitting that is good. 2 Dragon Ravine.
This is new.
Yeah. So I think you could technically play this at 1, but I think 2 is pretty good because there had been times where in a grind game I would rip set rotation off and as a top deck in a simplified game state. And like, okay, in there interrupts, this is game. And that Dragon Ravine plus the Disco Coliseum or Union Hanger was always left in my deck. And giving them a Dragon Ravine is it can come up. 1 Foolish Burial. I kind of was going back and forth on this card, but for the most part, this is the most versatile card in this deck. I think this is literally, if you open a heavy Therion hand, or you can just dump a piece, or you can dump Destrudo, it's basically Dragon Ravine without being able to pitch a card. Simplified game state, if you used to have a piece on the field after you split and they kind of ran over your board, blew out your board, and you have 1 piece, rip the Foolish Burial, you hold on to the Foolish Burial, you dump a Destrudo, and you can full combo with AFD. So just Foolish Burial, it's definitely a card that you should hold on to. Like if you open it, definitely hold on to it. But if you have to use it, use it. There's been many times where I'd open Foolish Burial plus full combo. So I'd full combo and hold the Foolish Burial and try to hold on to it to the next turn, because once you sink into AFD, you can just Foolish back another Destrudo, and that can be an extender for, just generic Link 2 plays, which can come up sometimes.
Very nice.
3 Forbidden Chalice. This card has been the absolute MVP. This card, I played against a Tri-Brigade Bird Up deck, and hitting that Sure Egg just feels so good. Against Trap Tricks, this card outperformed as well because it's a quick play spell. So does they don't get a free pluses off you. So I was able to hit the Sarah or all of their other trap tricks monsters that would trigger on summon or activate on summon. And of course, 3 Pot of Prosperity. Basically dig for any access to any field spell.
Yes.
It's pretty much it's if you if you have if you have a combo in your hand, you can go for 3 and just kind of get something just so because extra deck is kind of tight or can be pretty tight, and it's always kind of tough when you banish 6, but banishing if full combo, don't banish 6, just banish 3 and just see if you can get an extender. Set rotation, that's pretty self-explanatory. And the terraforming as well. Two Disco Coliseum. 3, like I said, 3 is too clunky. The only downside about the Therion package is it can be clunky, but 2 I think is a pretty good number. You could cut this down to 1 if you really want to put more hand traps. Like you cut the Disco Coliseum to 1. I think that's one of the ones you could potentially cut to 1. Typically, when you do your full combo, you always want to prioritize ending on Therion Disco Coliseum, just because it can save. When you activate your IP on their turn, when you make Appaloosa, usually what I made, after you use it a couple times, they want to go into battle phase. And I can't tell you how many times people just didn't read the card and they just try to run over the Appaloosa, and it's a non-activate save. So you can just dump the other copy of Disco Coliseum or another Regulus from your deck to save it, and then after that they're like, yeah, okay, I'll skip up.
Nice.
3 Unauthorized. This has been a lot of people have been talking about playing 2. You could probably play 2 and get away with it, but I still think 3 is correct. Just because it helps you dodge hand traps. It allows you to dodge any kind of back row, any floodgates, any kind of it's really anything. I mean, this card is amazing. It's also a combo starter, especially if you don't open Hanger. This is basically Hanger 2.0. I think this is pretty crucial to run 3 of this card. Union Hanger, 3 Union Hanger. That's self-explanatory. 3 evenly matched. You just needed some go second cards, see some blowouts. If you go second, if you're going second, not a lot of people will usually stop your prosperity because I feel like they're afraid of tactics or thrust, and especially in this format. So usually I'll just dig for 6, even if I have combo, just to get a blowout card or some sort of chalice or imperm interruption. But during this regional, I was able to dig for evenly because people letting this go, they always got punished, and I added evenly off this if I didn't open it. And then 3 imperm. I think imperm's pretty good this format, so got to play imperm.
No, that's great, man. Seems like you'd be able to fit a lot of good going second cards in what I guess people would think is a pretty tight deck, but it looks like you have a lot of flex spots and a lot of 1 to 2 card combos. So I'm glad it worked out for you.
Yeah.
Before I ask you about the extra deck, what's the end board we're going for? What's a typical full combo end board that we're ending on in this deck?
Oh gosh, so it's Regulus plus ABC Buster, IP, Platinum Gadget. And there's a lot of different lines that you can take this, but that's typically that's like the inboard. That's a general inboard. But if you play the combo smart, and if you play high risk, for example, if you have B and A on your field and you want to make your first link 2 in the Platinum Gadget, typically most people will just trigger B to add the C to summon off Platinum Gadget. But if you have lines for Regulus or the Therion, you can trigger A and B, get a search off B, and then add A or add B from the graveyard off A's effects. So that allows you to have 2 additional cards in hand, but just A in the graveyard. But you have to kind of have 2 different lines of combos to make sure you can end on Buster. So I was able to kind of make sure I basically triggering both of those when they hit the graveyard. And this basically allows you to use the Ancient Fairy Dragon summon or the Platinum Gadget summon to equip that piece to your Buster for added protection. For example, my go-to play was to do Regulus, ABC Dragon, Buster, IP, and I guess Platinum Gadgets on the field as well. With Buster, unaffected by either monsters or spells or traps, depending on your read. If I'm going first, I usually will try to make it unaffected by monsters because nib. I I can't tell you how many times people will try to, that have the nib, or there was a time where I didn't have Regulus, but I had a Buster protected by A, and they tried to nib, and I was like, okay, you just got rid of an IP play, which is not, it's not the best, but it's Buster is the heart and soul of the deck, so keeping him alive is pretty crucial.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and sometimes if you open, the most insane combo I've the biggest board I was able to end on was it was IP. I was able to do IP Platinum Gadget Buster with unaffected by B and A. So unaffected by spell, or equipped with B and A, unaffected by spells and monsters. I had 3 cards in hand. I was able to set 2. So pretty much I plussed like so hard off but that's, like I said, that's going high risk, triggering your A every single time. So he didn't have any eruption. So it was pretty wild. So yeah, that's pretty much the go-to in board, and your go-to play off IP is Appaloosa. And if you're feeling really, if you're feeling like he's going to have nib, or he has nib, or some sort of board wipe card, you can, or monster, basically nib, you can. There's an opportunity to make Appaloosa going on your first turn before you make Buster. So you can make, I think, Appaloosa summon. If you prioritize Appaloosa, you can make a 3-mat Appo. I believe it's on the 5th or 6th summon. But if they nib you when you're trying to go for that, you're like, that's fine. I'll just, because you'll have other lines if you set it up correctly. You'll trigger all your pieces and you'll just float them all out, which is the best thing about this deck. Not once per turn.
That sounds crazy. Yeah. So I guess we know what the end board's supposed to be. So just for the sake of it, give us the extra deck rundown.
So extra deck, 3 ABC Buster Dragon. 3 is pretty. I mean, people can. If 2 is not correct, you need that 3rd one for the grind. And if you're really in a pinch, you can banish 1 for prosperity, which I've done before. 1 Ancient Fairy Dragon, which is the absolute. I don't understand why they unbanned this. This card is nuts. It's a hand trap magnet. Like, if they try to stop my AFD, like, I try to start off with my AFD combo, and people like try to hand trap it, stop it, and I'm like, okay, cool. And then I just proceed with the basically going a different combo line, which is one thing I figured out about this deck. There's like, if you open, like, for example, Ravine Peace plus, actually just Ravine and Peace is the full combo to IP, Buster, Irregulus, all that, which is insane. So Axis Kotaker just for the OTK. After you blow him out, your turn 1, stun him out, you just split, and ideally you can just make this off the rip.
Nice.
Appaloosa, you go to Link 4. Borke blocker. This is a flex spot. I made it just to get pieces in the grave to trigger, so I had resources at hand to combo and to have the Buster pitch for interruption. This can be any kind of generic Link too, but this still has some utility. Didn't come up to pitch a card and add a field spell in from your grave to your hand. And when you summon this, you got to remember you have to have a legal target. But when you activate it, I've seen people try to activate it without a legal target, just so they can plus off of Regulus. Claire Rouge, this card is the best going second card in this whole deck. I am not gonna this like this thing. People are I just can't even. This card just put in so much work. Like, you never banish this off prosperity unless you have like the absolute best hand and you're going first. But if you're going second, you never want to get rid of this card. This card will be your absolute best friend. Being able to normal summon, if you open a really terrible hand, you're able to, for example, if you brick on the Reguluses and piece Regulus brick. You can at least normal summon a piece. Battle phase, try to swing at some, and then just main phase 2, you link it off, and then you get Regulus out, and then you equip the piece, summon the piece out, and you have a link 2 axis. So you can either start floating or triggering your pieces. If you have piece locked hand, you can just start triggering those and link climb. And for example, that happened to me under Lancia. I got Lancia'd by someone, and I was able to just have Regulus, and I was Regulus piece locked actually going second, and pretty much I had the right pieces in hand where I was able to link climb and end on 3-mat Appaloosa and Regulus, and he couldn't. I was playing as Brandon, and he really couldn't do much with that board after that.
That's crazy.
Let's see. IP is self-explanatory, part of the combo. Cerberus. I think the whole Nightmare package is pretty standard as well.
Mm-hmm.
So the Lean Karibo, I didn't summon this once at all, so I feel like this still could be a good tech choice, but I guess this is a possible flex spot. I didn't get Ibly locked. I got gimmick locked a lot. So yeah, I don't know. I didn't see it, but I feel like if it did come up, it would be great to have. So I'll probably leave this in. Then of course,
Okay.
Platinum Gadget. Platinum Gadget is part of the combo. It's also a hand trap magnet, which can be good if you have Regulus in hand. So if you make this after your normal Union Hanger equipped, so you have your 2 pieces, and you make this and you trigger them, attempt to summons, like they try usually Imperm or Veiler this. So you're like, okay, then you reveal Regulus and target a piece engrave, and it's an instant punish. And after that, you kind of just continue with your combo. And then of course, Goddess is a must in this deck because I played against 3 Branded decks, and each of them just turboed out Dragoons. So this was my primary out to Dragoon in the main deck. So besides, of course, I'd put in the Book of Eclipses as well. But yeah, that's the extra deck.
That sounds really solid, man. Looks good. Looks like a lot of tech. Looks like a lot of pushing power. Gets to use the pieces that come back from the Buster. No, it looks really good. Go ahead and talk about your side deck now.
So I played the 1 Pangratops. The Pangratops is I would side in for the Cashier matchup or any kind of back row matchup. If you're going second and you summon this, it puts pressure on your opponent, and it's spot removal. I think spot removal in this format is pretty good. I mean, basically my main concern was the Rise Heart. Try to out that just any additional cards, but luckily my Cashier matchups I didn't really have any issues with those. See, 3 Nib. Nib is pretty good this format. I didn't get to use it, unfortunately, but I'm sure it would have made my matchups my games a lot easier if I saw it. But I think I'll still keep this in. Didn't get to use it, but the next one is 2 Book of Eclipse. So I'm not sure about this card anymore. I may swap this out for Bells because I feel like Bell is significantly better. Or if I had the Bell instead of the Eclipse, I potentially would have won the game. For example, the Gimmick Puppet shenanigans. That was one of my losses, was against Gimmick Puppet Turbo, and I couldn't stop it. Yeah, I don't know. Every time I resolve this card, I think I lost that game, so I wasn't able to bounce back and or break the board. And the times, I guess, going first, I kind of left this in a couple games, and like I would win, but it's not because of this card, because I already kind of full combo, and I never got to use it going first because it wasn't necessary. But I think I'll probably take those out for Bells. 3 Cosmics for the Runic matchup. Any back row heavy decks. Typically would side these in for most of my matchups. Kind of had some decent back row, so I kind of was putting those in. 3 Dark Rule and no more. It was primarily for Sprite, and then if I was going second against Kashtira, I'd try to use that. Didn't really come up either. I'd side these in, never saw them. Um, Mainly saw evenly. Saw a lot of evenly when I was going second, just because Prosperity would dig, and I'd see evenly plus Dark Ruler no more, and I'd still prioritize the evenly over the Dark Ruler just because they didn't have an Omni negate. 3 any spell. Wish I saw it against my Runic matchup. Didn't, so still keeping this in. It's a blowout card against them. I mean, it's pretty. I think it's pretty blowout. If you go first, if you open subpar, just end on Buster plus anti spell. I mean, you're gonna have a field day. So,
All right, nice, man. Deck looks real solid. I'm glad it worked so well for you. Last thing I guess I'd ask is if you want to go through your day, talk about some matchups and how the tournament experience was for a whole.
oh yeah, so tournament experience was pretty good. Didn't start on time, but I feel like that's kind of normal nowadays. But it didn't start at 1 o'clock like the last regional I went to, so that was amazing. Yeah. So first round, Branded. Oh, yeah, I played a Branded. That was a 2-0. Flu. That was 2-0. I think primarily because I didn't open shifter or de-shifter, so that was a relief on that one. Math Mech got that one. Trap Tricks, that was a 2-1. Like I said, those chalices were absolutely incredible. I think chalice at 3 is it could, I mean, especially when you have a body on field. Usually the interruptions that if the person knows how to play against this deck, they're gonna want to interrupt you after your normal summon. So basically, Imperm is dead. But Chalice being able to react to like a Baron, I've had a lot. Every other game, someone put up a Baron and they trigger the hanger, and I just have the Chalice change, target it, and proceed as normal. But that Chalice definitely came up a lot during Trap Tricks. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, round 6. That was when I played another Branded. That was the Gimmick Puppet Turbo is kind of what I'm calling it, because three turns in a row, this guy summoned out Gimmick Puppet, and I was holding on. I was building up an ABC wall, just equipped with all the other pieces, pretty much, just trying to like survive while he had a Dragoon on the field, which is funny because I was able to have an A equipped to A, and A was unaffected by monsters, so he couldn't burn me. So it was pretty slow grind, but he eventually overpowered me in resources because I wasn't able to go in the extra deck, which this deck is very extra deck dependent. Kashtira, that was a 2-0. I opened Ash Imperm game 1 after losing the die roll, and I just hit the initial searcher. Basically, I just used them as soon as I could, and that pretty much stopped his turn. And then he went first again, but he bricked. He set 2. I think he just summoned Fenrir. I don't know. I forgot what he did, but he bricked. He said, and I think it's Ogre. He summoned Kashtira Ogre, set 2 and pass, something like that. And so I had a really crazy hand and just OTK'd him right there. Going into round 8, it was Naturia Runic. This is I lost to this one. This was a really close game. I think towards the end I had making misplays. But that loss was to the person who actually won the regional, so I don't feel too bad about that. But that was a good match. I knew that was gonna be a hard matchup. I didn't get to see any spell, unfortunately, so that was a tough matchup. It was a long game. Then my last round was against Lyrilisk Bird Up, or Lyrilisk, what is it called? Lyrilisk Tri Brigade. Yeah. So that was a 2-0 that one. Wasn't really much to talk. It was just, hold your Imperm, hold your Chalice for when they link summon. I just held on to those cards and set them, and it was pretty straightforward matchup. Just kind of stop those link summons. Yep.
Nice,
that was it. Yeah.
That's great, man. 9 rounds, ABC back in the format, immediately taking advantage of some new spice. 7-2 is a great record with 400 people, man. Especially with a brand new deck, basically. All new
Oh
power.
yeah,
Not brand new, but we know what we mean. But congrats,
this
man.
deck. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, this deck flowed really well, really well.
Awesome, man. Any shout outs you'd like to give before we call it a day?
Shout out to the guy at the regional who lent me his pen. Good lucky pen.
All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Shout out to YGO Huntsville. You know, that's my hometown. They got me into it. They got me all geared up for the competitive scene. So it's my home base. Even though I moved down to Florida, still have them hometown locals.
Oh, man, great. Thanks for the profile, man. Appreciate it.
Oh, no problem.
All right. And let me cut this.